What's up, fam? We've been discussing it a lot on Twitter, so I thought I'd come here on live and let's talk about it. Should the 49ers bring Jimmy G back if it means he's just a backup quarterback? Come in, be heard. Let's talk about it. What is up, fam? Thank you so much for joining in. Look, I put something out there on Twitter. It's starting to bring up a lot of conversation, so I thought I'd just come out here and give my 2 cents, see what you guys think. I know it's a little bit of a hot take, but it's something I've been thinking about. So let's kind of just put things in perspective as far as why I think that the 49ers just might need to bring Jimmy Garoppolo back at this point in the year. So last year, it was the 49er brass, Lynch and Shanahan were pretty adamant that one of the things that they had isolated as a big problem for the 49ers was just a competent QB room, right? We've seen in previous years, the team had enough talent to go out there and be competitive year after year. However, injuries to Jimmy Garoppolo led them to have to play guys like CJ Beathard, Nick Mullins, and they just didn't have the same ability to keep the team competitive. And, the 49ers faltered and ended up not making the playoffs and just having, very bad seasons as far as up to what they expectations were. So one of the things in last offseason that the 49ers knew they needed to get way more competent in their quarterback room. So if you guys knew, they went out, obviously went after, they were going after a lot of big name quarterbacks. They were also going after some potential backup quarterbacks as well, knowing that they were going to draft, Trey Lance, in the draft. It ended up not being able to get like an Andy Dalton or a Ryan Fitzpatrick or anything like that. So they ended up keeping Jimmy and Trey, and it ended up working out quite well because even though, Jimmy was the starter, he did go down a couple of games or couldn't play a few games. And because Trey Lance was able to come in there and namely against Houston in a must-win game, go out there, get the victory and kept the 49ers playoff hopes alive, right? So that was something that was extremely important, something that was imperative for the team's success. Well, it's hard to think that all of a sudden now the 49ers aren't going to be thinking the same way, meaning that the quarterback room all of a sudden isn't a priority for them, or they don't care about how competent that quarterback room is. And what I mean by that is right now, the quarterbacks on the 49ers, on the 49ers roster are Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance, and Nate Sudfeld. So if Jimmy were to be traded or cut, that leaves Trey Lance and Nate Sudfeld as the quarterback room. And you look around the league, as far as competent backup quarterbacks that are available, those are kind of slim pickings now. The 49ers were thought to be getting Tyrod Taylor. He got signed elsewhere. I believe Marcus Mariota's out there, but it's looking like there may be some teams that want him and possibly he could become a starter. So the quarterback room with Nate Sudfeld, I don't know how confident you'd be in that type of quarterback room. Nate Sudfeld with the Eagles was their third string quarterback. Last year, he was mainly a practice room quarterback and a practice squad quarterback. I think he suited up maybe 4 times for the 49ers, and I don't think he really saw the field too much. So if you're looking at, okay, Jimmy gets traded away, I understand why everybody thinks that should be the move, right? Cap space, things like that. But let's go through all of those because the other option is Trey and Sudfeld. And obviously we would hope, knock on wood, that Trey Lance stays healthy the whole season. but this is the NFL. And even last season, Trey got dinged up a little bit. So maybe in a 17-game season, you do need your backup to come in and maybe win one or two, or have a span of 4 games where the team still needs to be competitive, especially in a NFC West that, we know how competitive the NFC West is. So you take a loss here or there because you don't have your starting quarterback in there and don't have a competent backup. That could be the difference between, winning your division and not even making the playoffs, right? So let's talk about it, because what I am, I guess, trying to say is, I know that we can't have Jimmy Garoppolo on the team at $25 million a year, right? So this is stating that if the 49ers can't get the type of trade package that they're looking for, which it seems to be that they're looking for like a second round pick, something that could maybe turn into a first round pick or multiple picks, things like that. And they haven't budged off of it. I know some people might say, well, it's not that they haven't budged. They're just not getting any offers at this point because the teams that were interested have gone other routes or don't want to pay Jimmy the type of money coming off of an injury, and all that stuff makes sense. But the 49ers also waited too long to nab a backup quarterback. And right now, Sudfeld is the guy. I don't have confidence that Sudfeld is going to be able to come in spot duty and, hold down the fort if Trey does go get injured. So what I believe, maybe the 49ers bring back Jimmy, extend him to make the money not like $25 million a year, but maybe $10 to $12 million a year over 3 years. So instead of 1 year, 25, whatever he's supposed to get right now, make it a 3-year, $30 to $34 million contract where he's getting 10 to 12 million per year. And that does two things. One, it makes the money a little more feasible for the 49ers and the cap. The other thing is it makes Jimmy a lot more appetizing for the trade market in the future, because it's easier to sign. It's easier to trade for Jimmy when he's making $12 million a year than when he's making $25 million a year, right? So that's what it is. So a lot of you guys chimed in. A lot of you guys made your points heard. J.R. Meadows, no one wants Jimmy G. That does play into what I'm talking about as well. Stunner, Fillmore, not me, LOL, and knock on wood, baby, for sure. Sean, Kaleoi, I hope I didn't butcher that, man. I know you come on a lot. I gotta learn it. Aloha, faithful. Picking up what you're laying down. Thank you, Stunner Fillmore. So let's talk about it, okay? So obviously, the biggest issue with bringing Jimmy back as a backup is he has to be in the mentality that he would be the backup. And that isn't something that I'm just brushing over, that all of a sudden he's just going to be, okay, well, I don't want to be a starter anymore. I want to be a backup. But like JR Meadows says, this might be a humbling experience for Jimmy Garoppolo right now, right? So a lot of people are saying that, Jimmy just made it to 2 NFC championships in the last 3 years, went to the Super Bowl, and why would he now all of a sudden be a backup? And fair point, right? I'm not trying to gloss over that. That's absolutely a fair point. But nobody's trading for that guy right now, at least. Nobody's putting out, high capital for a guy who in the last 3 years took a team to the NFC Championship and a Super Bowl. So it's not just Jimmy that might not believe. It might be some of the rest of the league that isn't out here just, fighting over a player that has that type of resume. And it's not like we haven't seen this precedent in the past, right? So everybody knows, Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco took the Ravens to a Super Bowl and actually won it. And a few years later, when they got Lamar Jackson, all of a sudden Joe Flacco became that type of backup quarterback, and he's been a backup ever since. Even though he believed that he was a starter, the league let him know that he wasn't a starter anymore, right? So it's not like there isn't precedence for a guy who maybe has had some accolades and maybe still believes he could be a starter to still be a backup, right? So That's one. The other thing is that a lot of people are saying, okay, well, what about the locker room? There's still a lot of vets in that locker room that believe that Jimmy Garoppolo gives them a better chance to win. And like I said, valid point, right? A lot of these guys, the success that they've had in the league as far as deep playoff runs, going to the Super Bowl, playing in meaningful games, where they've been the most competitive, they attach that to Jimmy Garoppolo being the quarterback of that team. So that isn't something that is just going to be glossed over. However, if we believe Trey is who we believe Trey is, and I am on the record multiple times that I believe Trey Lance should be the starter for this team, is the best starter for this team, and is going to be an amazing starter for this team for a very, very long time. But it's up to Trey Lance to show the players on the roster that he is that guy as well. And I do believe that in training camp, he is going to be able to show the separation with his athleticism, with his ability to understand the playbook, with his arm strength, with his mobility. All of those things are going to prove to the guys that may be on the fence that Trey is the guy that's going to be able to win with, right? And we all know that Jimmy Garoppolo's coming off of shoulder surgery. So it's not like it's just a foregone conclusion that Jimmy Garoppolo's going to be the same quarterback right away that he was, or that, the team thinks is this guy that could take them to the Super Bowl year after year after year, right? There might be some growing pains for him as far as getting adjusted to that. So it might even be an easier victory for Trey if they go head to head in training camp, that he could separate himself and even more. And let's be honest, these guys are paid millions of dollars to be playing a sport, right? Playing a game that we all play in our backyards for fun, right? They're getting paid millions of dollars to do that, and they know that winning is the ultimate thing, right? So if they see a quarterback that's going to be able to help them win more than another quarterback, they're going to support that quarterback. Let's be real. If Trey is beating Jimmy in practice week after week after week, George Kittle isn't going to be there, but Jimmy's my homeboy, and so I want to play with him more. No, he's going to want to win. These guys have been to the Super Bowl. These guys have been to NFC Championship games, but none of these guys have won a Super Bowl with the 49ers. So there is another level that these guys are looking to get. And if they believe that Trey Lance could get them there, I don't think that there's going to be much of a controversy. The problem with last offseason was there wasn't a separation. As much as we wanted there to be a separation, the problem was Trey just wasn't able to separate from Jimmy to the point where the tie obviously is going to go to the guy who took him to the Super Bowl a couple years ago. So that's kind of where the mentality is. So I don't necessarily believe that just because Jimmy and Trey are there, that all of a sudden there's just going to be guys who are blindly following Jimmy if they see Trey beating him week after week in training camp and in practice. Sean Kaleohi, would it then be an open competition? I think initially it has to be, right? If there's, I think that reality is, obviously there's certain structures where, you just know Patrick Mahomes is the starter. You just know Josh Allen is the starter. But I think in most QB rooms where there isn't just a defined thing, like there is going to be competition, but I do believe that Trey wins that competition. I do believe the team is going to nudge it to be Trey to give him the best opportunities, set him up for success, because I do believe he is the heir apparent, and let him win that out, right? Let's see, Ryu, can I agree with the open competition? We can just hand Trey the job. He must show he is better to himself and the team. Absolutely. And I get you, Ryu. You meant can't instead of can. Yeah, and look, if we believe Trey is the guy that we believe him to be, I have no doubt in my mind. Why should we be afraid? You know what I mean? At a certain point. And look, obviously, if the 49ers if the 49ers can get a first, second round pick or whatever they want to get for Jimmy, trade him. Obviously, that is the best, scenario. Get some assets back for the assets that you traded to go get, Trey. But what I'm saying is if it's just a fourth round pick, fifth round pick, or if it's like we need to cut him, to me, I think that might be a waste as well. And the reason being, like I said, the backup quarterback in the room, the other quarterbacks in the room are just not people that I'm comfortable with that are going to be able to help this team win. And at the end of the day, that's what we're hoping for, right? Like I said earlier, I don't want Trey to be injured. Knock on wood that he plays all 17 games in a deep run to the Super Bowl and wins the Super Bowl, right? But we have just seen year after year, being with a 49er fan for the past 5-6 years, what quarterback's been able to stay healthy the whole season, including Trey Lance last year. There are going to be meaningful games that the 49ers are going to have to win without their starting quarterback. And luckily, we had Trey Lance be able to come in against Houston and go out there and get a victory in a must-win game to be able to push the 49ers to the playoffs. And that might be a similar case next season, even if Trey is the starter. Maybe he does get dinged up a few games. And would you rather have Jimmy Garoppolo come in spot duty a game or two to be able to lead that team? Or would you want Nate Sudfeld to do it? I don't know. For me, I would much rather have Jimmy, right? So if Jimmy gets beat out fair and square, we have seen the type of caliber of person Jimmy is. We've seen him not be a distraction, even though the 49ers haven't treated him necessarily the best, right? Every single year, they're flirting with another quarterback, even though Jimmy Garoppolo believes he's the starter, and he didn't bring up any issues. He clearly loves it here in San Francisco, and like you said, he loves being around these players and things of that nature. And at the end of the day, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to do what's best for the team. And he's shown that year after year. Him and Trey do have a good working relationship. Trey has a lot of respect for him. It seems like Jimmy has a lot of respect for Trey. So if Trey beats him fair and square, which I think most of us believe he will be able to do, I think Jimmy would be okay with that. And like I said, right now, Jimmy at 1 year, $25 million doesn't make sense for him to be the backup. But if you make that a 3-year, $34 million contract and he's making $10 to $12 million a year, that's cool for a guy who can go in there and help you be a backup. And like I said, maybe not only do the 49ers have to deal with quarterback injuries, the rest of the league does too. So what if another starting quarterback goes down somewhere in the league? And all of a sudden, there's a guy backing up with the 49ers and Jimmy Garoppolo, who has the resume Jimmy has. And instead of being paid $25-27 million like he's supposed to be paid this year, the contract is just $10 to $12 million a year. Wouldn't a team be more inclined to give up assets for that type of contract with that type of player versus a 1-year, $25 million deal like the 49ers are trying to trade right now? I don't know. It makes more sense to me, at least. What do you guys think? What do you guys think as far as what I'm saying so far? Yes, sir. Thank you for joining in. Are you a Niner fan? Absolutely, man. Die hard. Definitely a big Niner fan. That's why I want to see the team win, man. And this is all coming from a space of having the team win. Yes, sir. Like I said, this team's Achilles heel, this whole Kyle Shanahan tenure has been the caliber of quarterbacks in that quarterback room. And last year, we had a really solid year because we had two quarterbacks that could help this team win, right? And when Jimmy went down, Trey Lance could come in and, get that victory against Houston. And in previous years, when it was C.J. Beathard and Nick Mullins as a quarterback, the team couldn't make the playoffs if their starting quarterback went down. So I think Nate Sudfeld, in my book, is more like a Nick Mullins, C.J. Beathard caliber of quarterback than he is a Jimmy Garoppolo caliber of quarterback. And we've seen this team win with Jimmy. So I hope Trey stays healthy the whole season. But if he does go down, I'll be much more comfortable with Jimmy Garoppolo being the backup than Nate Sudfeld. And that's where all of this is coming from. I guess not everybody agrees with me. California Bear, complete BS. Jimmy G needs to go ASAP. Well, California Bear, I understand the sentiment, right? But who's the backup quarterback? If Trey Lance goes down and gets injured sometime this season, do we just give up the year? right? Or are you rocking with Nate Sudfeld as being the guy that could help us win 2-3 games till Trey Lance gets healthy? I don't know. It is what it is. Jimmy better restructure for Tim, and that's the big thing. James Allen, thank you for joining in. I'm not saying bring Jimmy back and keep him on the roster at 25 mil. I'm saying if the dominoes keep falling the way that they're falling, meaning there isn't a team that Jimmy Garoppolo that is going to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't have a starting job in hand with another team. That might be a pill that he has to swallow. Also, he's going to be coming off of shoulder injury. Nobody really knows what he's going to be like coming off of that shoulder injury. So maybe Jimmy looks at it and is like, okay, well, I thought that I was going to be able to contend and be a starter for some team this year, and that isn't coming to fruition. Now, I don't know what I'm going to be able to do next year, right? It's not like there's a lot of open starting positions right now, right? There's Indy, but Indy might be solving that very soon, whether it be, going after a guy like Baker Mayfield or bringing in a Marcus Mariota or whatever way they're going, right? It looks like New Orleans might sign Jameis Winston. It looks like Carolina might keep going with Sam Darnold. Seattle, I don't know. They're not going to necessarily trade for Jimmy, and I don't think the 49ers will give Jimmy to Seattle. So maybe Jimmy has to swallow that pill and humble himself and be like, okay, well, maybe my plans aren't going to come to fruition the way that it is. So instead of a 1 year, $25 million a year contract, maybe the 49ers give him 3 years, 30 mil, right? He still gets the same amount of money plus a little bit more. And, he has long-term money, guaranteed money. And like I said, even if he doesn't end up playing out that full 3 years, he might be able to be more easily traded for the 49ers in the future. Baymac, the Achilles heel has been Kyle himself. Interesting, my man. That's another conversation that we could go real deep with. I do think that Kyle sometimes outthinks himself, but overall, I mean, he's been a very successful coach, at least the last 3 years. This team has been really really competitive. So I'm with you, Baymac. I understand that sentiment as well. James Allen, yeah, I agree with you, man. It can't be just a 1 year kind of Band-Aid where you just keep them on. I think if you have to bring them back, you definitely restructure. Stunner Filmo, thumbs up, practically word for word. Absolutely. That's not going to happen. What QB is okay with accepting the backup role and accepting taking a huge pay cut that big? I brought it up earlier, right? So in Baltimore, when Lamar Jackson came in, the quarterback there was Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco actually won a Super Bowl with that team, right? But when he was kind of not playing the way that he needed to play, Lamar Jackson came in and Joe Flacco ended up being the backup, right? And Joe Flacco never really became a full-time starter anywhere else in the league. So it's not there's play, and Joe Flacco had a big contract at that time as well. So it's not just a person's belief that they could be a starting quarterback in the league. If the league doesn't believe you're a starting quarterback anymore, then you just kind of have to just play your role at that point. Are you still going to be in the NFL, or do you just sit at home because nobody believes that you're the starting caliber quarterback that you are? And it's looking like maybe that is the crossroads for Jimmy right now, since there isn't this huge trade market for a guy who, has taken, been in the NFC Championship game 2 out of the last 3 years in a Super Bowl with that as well. James Allen, seems like the only team left is the Colts. Yeah, I mean, that's the one that makes the most sense, right? So the Colts need a quarterback. The 49ers have a quarterback to give up. The type of attributes that the Colts seem to want in a quarterback, as far as a leader, a man, somebody that could come in and stabilize a locker room. Jimmy Garoppolo has been able to show that in droves, like with the 49ers. I believe Trey Lance should be the starter, but I'm not one of these guys that just thinks Jimmy Garoppolo is a trash quarterback. This guy has been the quarterback and shown this team, or at least helped this team get back to a level of success that hasn't been seen in quite some time for us as 49er fans. And it's been a very, very uphill battle for him, not only with injuries, but think about being a starting quarterback who just took a team to the Super Bowl, and now all of a sudden your coaches and the management is flirting with other starting quarterbacks, and that's pretty much been like every single year, every single offseason for Jimmy Garoppolo, and he never created any problems for the team. He never went out in interviews. He never requested a trade, and we're seeing other quarterbacks that are dealt with just a little bit of the type of drama that Jimmy has had to deal with every single year in his career. And, Kyler Murray is writing strongly worded letters, and Baker Mayfield is requesting a trade. And, we didn't have to deal with that with Jimmy. He's just a high caliber type of individual that doesn't want to create a lot of drama. And so that's why I further believe that maybe this is something that can work out. Obviously, a lot of dominoes have to fall for that. Baymac, if Baker takes the Colts job, Jimmy is doomed. And that's kind of what I'm talking about, Baymac, is that these starting quarterback positions are starting to dry up pretty soon. Really, like James said earlier, it's really the Colts. So if the Colts solve that problem either with Baker, or they go after, Mariota, and, they sign him as the starter, and maybe they draft somebody, then where's Jimmy going to start, right? So at that point, maybe Jimmy would rather come back to the 49ers and have a year to maybe rehab that shoulder as a backup, or whatever the case may be, and restructure that contract so that it's more appealing next season or mid-season if, a starting quarterback goes down. Sunil, no one wants to trade for Jimmy. I've always believed Jimmy has no trade value. Ekim, I disagree. I think nobody wants to trade for Jimmy off of shoulder surgery and for $25 million a year. But if Jimmy was $10 to $12 million a year, I do believe there will be a bunch of teams that would actually trade for him, especially if we bring him back, restructure, make it more of a $10 to $12 million a year type situation. Maybe he gets into a few preseason games and maybe some spot duty if Trey gets nicked up here and there, or they're blowing out a game. Jimmy gets to go in, show that arm is healthy, that shoulder is still strong, and then another quarterback from a different team maybe goes down with an injury. That seems like more likely where Jimmy could actually be traded, because one, he's not as expensive, and two, teams won't have that much risk because they've already seen that he's healthy coming off of after the shoulder surgery. James Allen, you don't believe Baker will get the Colts job? I mean, they did want a bona fide leader. Baker doesn't necessarily come off as the leader, so we'll see. Low the Truth 05, if you can't at least get 7 for him, just release him. But Low, we've been talking about that. I know a lot of people are just get rid of Jimmy no matter what, but who's the backup, Low? That's all I'm asking, man. Who's the backup? Do you believe Nate Sudfeld is coming in if Trey Lance gets injured and winning enough games to keep the team viable for a playoff run? Or if we don't have Trey, are we just giving up the season? I don't know. I want a competent backup there. And based off of who's left in the market and the fact that we haven't been able to trade Jimmy, I think it might be a better decision to bring Jimmy back, extend him, lessen his per year salary, and keep him there till another team desperately needs a quarterback, and we could trade a quarterback that's making 10 to 12 million a year versus a quarterback that's making 25 million a year. Colts will be better off getting a bridge QB. Baker is young and hasn't improved. He was the 30th ranked QB. I agree, man. I agree. That's why I'm saying Jimmy. Jimmy is not as bad as he's been speculated to be traded for a second already. Not bad, and he's been speculated to be traded for a second. Right, but until it happens, it hasn't, right? So we'll see. I wouldn't be against having Fitz as a backup for Trey. Yeah, Sean. Fitz is also coming off of a real severe injury that took him off all last season. So to be determined what he's going to be like. If the 49ers bring in a viable backup quarterback, then you know that they're going to get rid of Jimmy. I'm just saying the fact that they still haven't gotten rid of Jimmy, they're restructuring contracts to still be still make moves in free agency. to me makes it seem like they're willing to bring him back and keep him. And I'm just saying maybe they need to just because of the fact that they don't have a backup. So if they bring in Fitz, if they get a guy like Mariota, or, I don't know if Jacoby Brissett has been, signed yet. He's another guy that I was looking at to bring back in. If they bring in somebody like that who we know could go out there and win a couple games if need be, then by all means trade Jimmy. But if it's just Nate Sudfeld back there, I don't know how comfortable I feel with that. This is a big point that people that don't agree with what I'm saying say keeping Jimmy would be toxic. And Mark, thank you for joining in. I think that's what people expect, just because we as fans are more emotional than I think the average player is, because at the end of the day, this is the players' jobs, right? So I do obviously believe that Jimmy Garoppolo is a likable player in the locker room, and a lot of these guys, like I've said earlier, their success has been tied to Jimmy Garoppolo as a quarterback. When Jimmy hasn't been playing, this team hasn't been winning. When Jimmy has been playing, this team wins. And they've seen, a lot of these teams, the only time they've been to the Super Bowl, Jimmy Garoppolo was the quarterback. A lot of these players, the only time they've been in deep playoff runs, Jimmy was the quarterback. So I understand that. I understand that bond, and I understand that there are going to be players there that are pulling for Jimmy to be the starter. However, they will quickly stop pulling for Jimmy if they see another quarterback that is just that much better and that they feel like is going to be able to win. They're going to win with more than Jimmy. And that's what Trey needs to do regardless, right? Because these same players that are on Jimmy's side, they'll still, if Trey comes out and isn't playing up to par, or they can't win with Trey, or whatever the case may be, these players are still going to be feeling the same way. They just obviously won't have the option because Jimmy will be gone. But if we're talking about just feelings, emotions, and beliefs, those are still going to be there. They're still going to think, man, we should have kept Jimmy, right? So I don't know about how toxic it actually is. It seems like this culture with the 49ers is very strong. We haven't seen any toxicity that much, other than like the coaching staff always flirting with the new starting quarterback, even when they have starters on the roster. I mean, the toxicity really comes from the higher ups, right? It's not the players. At the player level, it seems like everybody really bonds together. Everybody is really close knit. And even the Trey Jimmy relationship is a pretty strong one from everything that they've said, if you take that at face value. So I do understand the toxicity, because we saw it happen with Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts and what happened over there with the Eagles. However, that should have happened last year with the 49ers, and it didn't, right? It actually went extremely smooth. So I believe that it could be the same way. It's all about Trey just proving and showing to everybody that he is that much better than Jimmy, and I believe he will. Let's see. Let me get some water in here. Man, I love the fact that everybody's coming in, making their comments heard. Oh my God, Jay, you are in acceptance stage of grief. Don't fall for it. Look, man, Jay, you know better than most. I talk to you directly on a regular basis, man. I'm Team Trey. I'm just seeing the writing on the wall. And like I said, for everybody that's telling me, yo, this is dumb, just trade him, all that kind of stuff, you tell me, are you confident that Nate Sudfeld is the backup quarterback we need? What is the solution there? Because until there's a better option at backup, if there's a guy out there that you guys think the 49ers can go out there and get that can help Trey if he does get injured, win one or two games to keep this team viable in the case of a Trey injury, then I'm all for it. But as of now, Jimmy Garoppolo is the best option for that in my eyes. Though the truth, Sunil, I'm down for that plan, but do you think he would accept a backup role? I truly, if it was any other quarterback, maybe not, but I do think Jimmy would, just because of the caliber of man that he is, right? It's not that he's just going to be all the way just coming to training camp just because Kyle Shanahan says, hey, Jimmy, you're the backup, Trey's the starter, and Jimmy's just going to like take it on the chin. What I do expect, though, is one, Jimmy's coming off of a shoulder surgery, right? He's not going to throw for 16 weeks. So him coming into training camp, that's going to be his first time throwing the ball. Trey's been working out this whole summer, right? He's working out with, coaches. Beck, he's working out with players. He's sharpening up his tools. So I expect this to be not even a competition in training camp. And if Jimmy goes out there in training camp, Trey goes out there in training camp, and Trey is just head and heels over Jimmy Garoppolo, the players see it, Jimmy sees it, the coaches see it, and it's just very apparent that Trey is that much better than Jimmy at this point. I think Jimmy would accept it, especially if it means he gets a longer deal with more guaranteed money and all that kind of stuff, knowing that he's the first guy to be traded if another quarterback gets injured down the line. I absolutely think that he would be okay with it just because of the type of class act that he is. James Allen, the main problem with Jimmy is health and his propensity to throw those 3 gimme picks a game. Absolutely, man. Like I said, that's why I do think he needs to prove a little bit that his shoulder is still going to be healthy, especially coming out of surgery. So that preseason, maybe some games during the regular season, if the Trey, and the 49ers are blowing out some teams, or, Trey's nicked up a little bit, maybe that he could kind of show off what he is capable of, so that when a team does come to need a quarterback, which it's going to happen, right? We all know these, unfortunately, in the NFL, injuries happen. So there is going to be a starting playoff caliber team. That starting quarterback goes down. They don't have an option at backup. Jimmy's going to be the first guy that they look for. Bay Mac, I'd love to see 3-year contract, $30 million for Jimmy as a backup competition in case Lance is out. We got one. Bay Mac, he's on the squad right now. He's feeling it just like I'm feeling it. Let's go. Keeping Jimmy and having another no Super Bowl championship, this front office and Kyle need to be fired. Like I said, you're talking Jimmy at 25 million. I'm not saying that be the case. They definitely have to make the money work. It does require extending Jimmy, getting him down to more of a $10 to $12 million a year contract for this to work. And like I said, this is all based off of where we are at right now, right? If they get the type of trade package, I'm all for trade Jimmy. If they bring in a viable backup option, I'm all for trade Jimmy. But until one of those two things happens, look, we can't just sit here and just be emotional, right? We have to sit here and think logically. The team down the line next season, do we believe Trey is going to play all 17 games? Hopefully, yes. But if he doesn't, what is the option behind Trey? And I just don't trust Nate Sudfeld is that answer. Let's see. Sean, awesome Sunday talking about 49ers football. Smash that like button. W, thank you so much, Sean. And I would appreciate it, everybody. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, go subscribe. It really helps me out and helps this channel grow. And like the video too. Get some of that algorithm working for us. You know what I mean? Let's see. Harold, Jimmy G is a class act. He's all about the team first. Of course, Jimmy would be willing to take a backup role. Harold Murillo, thank you so much for joining in. I agree with you, man. Like, we have to understand the type of person Jimmy is. He's never been an issue. He's never been a headache. He's never been drama, even though he had every right to be. And we've seen other quarterbacks just this offseason that have had just a little bit of what Jimmy had to deal with his whole tenure with the 49ers, and they're just losing their mind. And Jimmy's never done that. So I do think that Jimmy would be willing to take that. Like I said, if Trey can prove to everybody, which I believe he will, that he's that much better than Jimmy right now. Let's see. Sean saying, I still think Jimmy is a starting caliber QB in this league, and I believe he does too. That shoulder surgery came at an extremely awkward time. I think he would have been signed by now. And I agree with you, Sean. But the shoulder surgery is there, and he hasn't been signed, right? And I think teams are hesitant to sign a guy that's making $25 million a year that they don't know how he's going to return off of that shoulder surgery. And I do think that just kind of is got to take advantage of the opportunities. That might be a blessing in disguise for the 49ers because, they can bring him back knowing that, hey, look, Jimmy, nobody wanted you, right? So we're going to bring you back. Let's extend you, at that $10 to $12 million a year type thing. You could compete as a starter here. Trey wins that. You're the backup here. And then play a little bit, show the rest of the league that your shoulder is strong, and then we could trade you mid-season for something better than what they would get right now if they traded him. It's a long season. Nobody wants any players to get hurt, but you have to have depth in every position. Jimmy G is a backup. I'm all for it. And Harold, I'm with you. Look, and guys, if you guys have followed me in my channel and other channels, I've been trade Jimmy. Like, I do want Trey to have every chance to be successful, but I also want this team to have every chance to be successful. And I did expect them to be more aggressive in the backup quarterback market. But when I see Bridgewater, when I see slipping my mind right now, the guy that I thought was going to come with Anthony Lynn, I said his name earlier. I don't know why I'm brain farting right now, but or Tyrod, when he gets signed away, like when these viable backups that I thought would come in and be a good fit, that could come in and spell Trey if he does get nicked up a couple games, when these guys are off the market right now, like I said, if it's between Jimmy and Nate Sudfeld, I'm picking Jimmy every day of the week. So that's just what I'm thinking about. Here we go. Why would Jimmy or his agent take a pay cut? Doesn't make sense financially to take a deal that you are making that amount in 1 year compared to 3. The reason being, James, is because like I said, this is the humbling experience, right? So it's like maybe there isn't a market for Jimmy anymore, right? So if there is a case that maybe it's more of that Joe Flacco type situation where it's like, okay, you believe that you're a starter and all this kind of stuff, and then all of a sudden you just aren't anymore, right? And maybe that is the reason why it's like, okay, well, guaranteed money is better than no guaranteed money. So yeah, you could take 25 million in 1 year, or you could make sure you're in the league for another 3 years at whatever. Like I said, it's only if these other dominoes fall. So I mean, at the end of the day, the 49ers can also cut him, and then he doesn't make anything close to 25 million, right? There's no guarantee that he's going to get signed by any team for that much big money. And, it could be maybe he signs for a 1 year, $5 million deal. So there's the other option as well. So that's the reason why, like, the 49ers could cut him, and he could not get signed by a team and only make 7.5 million this year. So that's why what I think if I was the 49ers, I'd be telling him as well. Soul Rivera, thank you so much for joining in. That's an awesome handle by the name Soul Rivera. I like that name a lot. Roll the dice, cut Jimmy, sign players we really need. Jimmy can't win in big moments. And so I'm not saying that Jimmy should be the starter by any stretch of the imagination. This is strictly backup role, right? And I also don't believe the 49ers are in the realm of paying anybody big money, right? And I'm not actually opposed to it either, because the 49ers already have a lot of this premium talent that other teams are trying to get in free agency. They have the best left tackle in the game. They have the best middle linebacker in the game. They have one of the top 2 tight ends in the game. I think they're going to have 2 of the top 15 receivers in the game with Debo and Brandon Ayuk. I think that's going to be proven next year. They have the best fullback. They have some of the best safeties, so I just don't know where, they have two of the top 10 linemen in the game, defensive linemen in the game. So it's like they have all the premium talent that they need. I think that they're not going to go out there and overpay. They're just going to pay their guys big money contracts that are already proven talents on their team. So I don't know if the money is really needed, or even if they had the money, if they really spend it, right? So they still could extend Ward, save some money there. Ebicom, Mosley are 3 guys that they could extend and save some money there if they do need to sign some other players. Hope that they sign somebody on the offensive line rather than just going with the rookies. Hopefully they could sign some depth there. But yeah, I mean, I think that this big money signing that we think is going to happen is just, the team's already shown that it's not going to do that. Eric Carr, thank you for joining in. Jimmy come back more likely John or Kyle will be fired if the 2022 season go bad? Possibly, but I really think that John and Kyle have built up a lot of equity with the ownership team there. We've been calling for, if this happens, John and Kyle are going to be fired for the last, I would say, 3 years. And to their credit, the last 3 years, the team has performed 2 out of the 3 years. Last year I think they exceeded expectations. They've been to the Super Bowl, 2 NFC Championship games. NFC has seemed to have gotten a lot easier with the quarterbacks and some of the players moving to the AFC. So yeah, I mean, I don't think that this season is gonna go badly, to say the least. I think that this team finally realizes what it's good at, what it's bad at. I think that the team has gotten better this offseason with the moves that they've made. So, and I expect Trey to be the truth. So, I do believe that this season is going to go well. Sean, how much would it save on the cap if we do cut him as opposed to restructuring his contract and keeping him? So, I don't know about the restructuring his contract. Like, I could be, somebody could come and be like, Sunil, that's not how the cap works. You can't just extend him and save money that way. But I know if they cut him, the only thing that they're on the hook for is, I guess, the 7.5 million injury like payment that they'd have to make. But if he signs with another team, they get that $7.5 million back. So right now, I think if they keep him, he's on the cap for 25 million. So I think if they restructure him, let's say to 10 million, I'm assuming then they would save that 15 million. Maybe that's how it will work. I don't know. And any of you cap guys out there, I know a lot of you guys are much better at the cap for me. What would it be if they restructured him? So yeah, like James Allen saying, I do believe it'd be the 18 million, 25 minus the 7.5 million. But what would it be? Would it be 15 if they signed him to a longer term 3-year, let's say 10 to 12 million dollar? Would it just be the difference between the 25 and whatever the yearly contract would be? That's what I'm assuming. So we shall see. Yeah. So, guys, that's kind of what I wanted to come out here and talk about. Maybe you guys agree with me. Maybe you guys don't. I don't know. Hopefully you guys can talk about it. I know a lot of you guys had comments about it through Twitter. I just thought we'd come out here and hash it out. So I appreciate you guys hearing me out. Like I said, James might just have made this whole 45 minutes, 47 minutes I've been talking up here moot, because if it doesn't help, in saving money that way, then, I don't know, but we'll see. I think there still is a way that they could re-sign him to a longer term deal and save money. They've been doing that. Obviously, they did that with Armstead. They did that with Bosa. So they are planning on doing that, I think, with Jimmy Ward. So I do believe they could save some there. But like I said, this is all about the long-term picture of the team, guys. We do want the 49ers to be the strongest team that we could put out there. And I just think that, if you can't get the assets that you want for Jimmy, I do think he's a better backup quarterback than anybody else that we have on the roster, and maybe anybody that we can get that's still out there. So that's kind of what I thought. Like I said, don't bite my head off. It's just us talking it through and seeing what's possible. Leave your comments on the video. Let me know what you think. Hit me up on Twitter. Let me know what you think. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. For those of you that liked the video, thank you so much. For those of you that are in the comment section, thank you so much. Even if you took the time just to click on it and look at me for 3 minutes, I appreciate that too. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that as well. Next week, I got a few shows on Monday and Wednesday. I'll be on Jackhammer show on Tuesday, 5:15. Jesse's show right after that at 6:30. Got a lot of cool stuff. And obviously, anytime there's breaking news, you'll see my face at night. We'll talk about it. But guys, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay hydrated. And we'll see you guys very, very soon. Take care, guys.